13th in the Commonwealth Marathon 4 years ago, stepping back down to the track. And now to the defending champion, Stella Chesang. 14th over the 10,000 at the World Champs, but that was good enough for a national record. Hannah Irwin of Northern Ireland, she got a PB on the night of the 10,000s at Parliament Hill. And now to the first of the two Kenyans, African champion over 5,000 metres a few years ago, Sheila Kiprotich. Dominique Scott is another who's been working hard over 10,000 metres. She was 17th in the World Champs in Eugene. Celine Iranzi, PB when she finished 10th in the African Champs in Mauritius. And now to Irene Cheptai, the former World Cross Country champion, 6th last year in Tokyo. Rachel Chebet, 2nd in the African Championships. Could she spring a surprise for Uganda? And on the inside, Isabel Batt-Doyle came up through the Little League Athletics program, an excellent cross-country runner, 7th and 6th in the last two editions of the World Student Games Championship. So, the defending champion, Stella Chesang, up against one of the fastest half-marathon runners in history and a former World Cross-Country champion. The two Kenyans determined to take it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and to my subscribers, thank you so much for your unwavering support, and continue commenting, liking and sharing on the same note. So in today's episode, we are going to venture into incredible women's 10,000 meter race, and this is where if you don't watch out for your lungs, it is easier to pass out than cross the finish line. Stay tuned because I'll be back with further insights, and all credit goes to the original broadcaster of this video.
African distance running rivalry about to resume in Birmingham. The final of the women's 10,000 metres is underway. Lovely conditions here. It has got a little cooler. Jess Judd with Ailish McColgan on her shoulder. And Tim, I wonder whether this is the kind of night, if McColgan is feeling bold enough, where she may look to repeat the performance that she had at Hengelo. Some would argue that one of the reasons she beat Letesenbet Gide, who ended up winning the world title, was because the Ethiopians were more concerned about one another, because Hengelo was their battle to earn selection for the world champs. But McColgan ran masterfully in Holland and was rewarded with the second fastest time by a British woman, I know she's representing Scotland, that we've ever seen. Do you think she would be best served to take this on? Because at the moment they're absolutely dawdling.
Well, they did jog the first 200 or 300 metres, yes. And I don't know, I think it's early to go, too soon to go out in front and push hard right from the gun. Very, very rarely has that been seen in the history of 10,000 metre running. What we do see more often than not is what we saw last night, which is a reasonable first half. I think it was 13:45 the first half in the men's race, and then a much quicker second half of the men's 10,000 metres. And Kiplimo storming to gold for Uganda. I think this one will be very similar. I suspect one or two others will come through and take a turn over these first 12 and a half, maybe 15 laps. But for the full 25 laps, no, it would be very, very tough to go out and lead the whole way. Ailish has raced an amazing amount this last couple of years. She's been able to avoid injuries. That's been a real key to it. She's just been able to maintain her training from month to month, from season to season, and build up that fitness. And that's critical for any athlete. And she did look fantastic. You're dead right. In Hengelo a couple of months back, the Ethiopian contingent behind her were watching each other, just fighting for domestic glory and for places in the World Championship team. But while Ailish is very capable of going for home from a long way out, I don't think we'll see it until the second half.
A much smaller figure of Iranzi of Rwanda taking her turn at the front in these very modest first few laps. McColgan sometimes ends up having her heels clipped when she runs in a big pack, because she has quite a big high leg lift at the back. The athletes running in a tight group have to give her a little bit more space. At the moment she's got Jess Judd of England behind her, who's more than familiar. So you can see there that Judd has left a little bit of a gap, just to take account of McColgan's heels flicking up towards her. But this is very, very steady in the early stages. Good weather this though, Tim, for distance running. It's nice and cool.
It is, Rob. I'd still like to know just how much wind there is around the track, if there are any exposed areas, because the flags at the far end of the stadium where the water jump is, between the 200-metre point and 300-metre point on each lap from the start line. The flags up on the rim of the stadium are blowing pretty healthily. There is a breeze around. I just wonder if they're getting much down there. It doesn't look like it at the moment. Iranzi quite happy to lead on as they approach 1,000 metres. But yes, this is desperately slow at the moment, and this is fine. This is championship racing.
3:17, so they're on course for only just inside 33 minutes, which, looking at the season's best, is comfortably within the grasp of just about every single woman in this compact field of 14. Iranzi of Rwanda, who set her PB at the African Champs in Mauritius. Very windy day when they went to task over 25 laps over there for that title. She's just quite happy on the inside, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ailish McColgan just ever so slightly maybe ups the pace a fraction. I mean, 3:17 and bits, it's 79-second lapping, so it'll feel like an absolute dawdle for McColgan, who now does look like she's just putting a subtle injection of pace in, just to turn it into a little bit more of an honest first few laps.
Well, Ailish does like the pace to be healthy in most races. She likes it to be honest, and this is early for her to go, but actually you can use as much energy avoiding elbows and heels and people clipping you, and that is a common problem for her, as you've mentioned, as you do running at a slightly faster pace. And I think probably if there's not much wind out there to provide resistance in your face, then you might as well be out in front and just stride out healthily. It doesn't necessarily mean she wants to be there for the whole race, certainly through the first two-thirds, but actually at least this way you can just relax and lope along at your own tempo. I don't know how much significant acceleration there will be here, but I suspect Ailish was just getting a little bit tired with being in traffic for a couple of laps.
Cheptai has come up behind her. She's the Kenyan with the very short hair, world cross-country champion. I know you always are. You're a multiple world cross-country championship medalist, Tim. Such a great winter grounding for road work or for coming onto the track. And if you've won the world cross-country title, as she did in searingly humid conditions in a great atmosphere in the Kololo Independence Grounds in Kampala, it's a great platform, and you know she's an athlete of real class, the Kenyan in second.
No, absolutely right. That was sweltering hot that day, wasn't it? It was very tough conditions temperature-wise. It was a pretty flat, fast course, if I remember rightly, though, Rob. You were out there, you know better than me, but yeah, I do think that, you know, cross-country is a great test of just basic stamina, and if you've got good leg speed as well, then you can move it onto the track. But this whole generation of distance runners these days, this last 15, 20 years or longer, seem to be able to perform really well on all surfaces, whether it's the country, the soft ground and grass, whether it's the roads and the hard asphalt, or the relatively soft tracks nowadays that they get in these major championships. So, you know, athletes have become far more adaptable, and some of it's to do with the footwear, some of it's to do with changes in training. They know a great deal more than we did back 25, 30 years ago.
So, a little more spread out now, one or two just struggling off the back. Bat Doyle just at the rear of that group. That was a bit more like it. It was at a 3:05, 3:06 as opposed to a 3:17, and that's a bit more sensible. That's more like sub 31 pace at a 3:05, although of course they're not running that quick because the first of the 2 kilometres was so much slower.
Yes, and Ailish looks incredibly relaxed because she is so tall. She has got such incredibly long levers. She knows full well herself that it does make it hard for people to run behind her, and when she's in traffic, therefore, it can become problematic, and it's better perhaps to be out in front like this, where athletes can see there's usually not a bunch of people in the first 3 or 4 places. As you can see here, the bunching is going back between places 4 and 10. So sensible running this from Ailish, not particularly quick, but it will take its toll, and she's just got to be patient here and keep churning out these kilometres. Anything around 3:05, 3:07 is good, healthy running, and it will see this pack diminish.
And while we focus in on the Scot, whose mum won this event twice, Stella Chesang, very quietly in the middle of that group, just running behind the 2 Kenyans, just 4th place there, the defending champion, hoping to become only the 2nd woman other than Ailish McColgan's mum, Liz, who won once and her maiden name, Liz Lynch, in 86, and then once in her married name, Liz McColgan, in 1990. Chesang looking up on the big screen. She'll see Jess Judd and Dominique Scott just behind her. The other of the Ugandans hasn't got quite as quick a PB, and she's just at the back of that group now. And one by one, Tim, this is what she would want, Ailish McColgan. One by one, they are beginning to drop off the back, and that's going to be her best chance of giving herself an opportunity to try and follow in her mum's footsteps and get her hands on a medal.
No, absolutely right. Ailish is very familiar with this scenario. Just keep plugging away. 10 or 15 minutes time, there'll be a much smaller group than this. Interesting to see Jessica Judd looking really comfortable in 5th place. Her spirits are up, so to speak. She ran so well at the World Championships to run 30.35 there. A big new personal best, massive new personal best for her. So she will be comfortable enough at this pace. It'll be interesting to see how well Samantha Harrison, also in English colours there with blonde hair, back in about 8th place in the red bottoms, how long she can hang on to this tempo, because if Ailish maintains this, and they've gone through 3,000 now, in fact they're just about to go through 3,000, and it's going to be around 9:30. If she does maintain this tempo though, Ailish McColgan, it will take its toll, and Harrison might have trouble hanging on.
Yeah, another 3:04 plus bits, Tim, and that's why they are now strung out in single file. This will be a massive achievement. It's a big opportunity, this, for McColgan, who was so disappointed with elements of her performance in Tokyo last year. 9th in the 10,000 metres, didn't make the final of the 5. So McColgan leading from Cheptai and Kiprotich, and all of a sudden we have a single file group of 8 all in a line. Even Bat Doyle has begun to lose touch for Australia.
Well, 17 laps to go in that women's 10,000 metres. We can go over to the high jump momentarily, where the reigning champion may be about to get over 2:19 at the 3rd time of asking, or he may be dipping out of the competition. He's in 8th place equal, is the Australian Brandon Stark. 2 failures at 2:19 so far. Had a failure at 2:15, got over that 2nd time. I can tell you that there are 4 athletes now sharing 1st place who are looking quite comfortable, having got over this height 2:19 1st time of asking, and amongst them not a single failure yet. That's for Brandon Stark. Very, very important effort indeed. Now, lots of speed. Yes. When the pressure is on, an athlete of his calibre is able to pull out the big jumps. Well, he can reset now. 3rd time clearance 2:19, he's still in there.
Great work by our director. One of the people focused in on the crowd had a race bib that said Brandon Stark's roommate on the front. A bit of a claim to fame. We might see him or her again. I couldn't see whether it was male or female. I just saw the words Brandon Stark's roommate. Anyway,
what happens if we see somebody else wearing one as well, though? Then it's like, no,
it's me, not him
I'm
or her.
Brian's wife, and so's mine. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the 10,000 metres, where Ailish McColgan is just beginning to wind this up, and we have a group of 8 away from the rest, but this group contains Stella Chesang in the yellow, running in 4th place, the smallest figure in that leading group. She's the defending champion. She's won it before. Could she do it again? Jess Judd just at the head of a little group of 4, with Dominique Scott just behind her. Sarah Inglis in the familiar blue just now towards the back of the group, with Samantha Harrison. But McColgan doing a good job. She wants to see 1 or 2 of these athletes spat out the back here. She was 6th in the steeplechase back in Glasgow, 6th in the 5,000 on the Gold Coast. This is her 3rd attempt to get her hands on a Commonwealth medal. She switched from the steeplechase, I think, to do with injuries, and it's been a good decision, and she's trucking along quite nicely here, little by little, lap by lap. We're edging towards the halfway stage, and if she keeps this momentum going, Tim, as the evening air is a little cool, she has got a great chance of perhaps becoming the first home nation athlete, if you incorporate Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and England, since Mari Yamauchi's bronze back in 2006.
No, exactly right. And that fourth kilometre, by the way, another 3:04, 12:32 at 4K. She's doing exactly the right thing here, Eilish. She's not tiring herself out, but she is gradually dwindling down that group. And we know she's got plenty of speed. She's a great finisher. She's not got lightning quick kick-off for the last 150, but she has got really good ability to wind it up and maintain a high tempo for the last 300 or so. In her middle distance races and long distance races, it's easy to forget that Eilish is a world-class runner at the shorter distances, at 1,500 metres and 3,000, and of course 5,000.
Cameras focusing in on the athletes just at the back of that group. Sam Harrison, decent half marathon runner. She was third in Parliament Hill, what they call the night of the 10,000 PBs. If you're not watching from a British perspective, it's worth looking it up on YouTube. It's a great festival of 10,000 metre running where down the back straight the crowd get to within 3 lanes of the athletes with beers flowing. They run through a tent. There's a whole succession of 10,000 metre races throughout the day for those looking for a PB, and then of course heading towards the climax for those looking for a place in the World Championship and the Commonwealth Games. And I just noticed McColgan having a little look over her shoulder there. I'm not sure whether it was because her heel was clipped or whether she's thinking, right, hang on, you're all tagging along for the ride. I've got us back down towards low 31s. If anyone else wants to share these pace-making duties, then feel free. But Cheptai and Kiprotich and Chesang in second, third and fourth, not interested in getting to the front. They're all just happy to sit on the back of this pretty solid, very steady pace. And she should still be feeling comfortable here, judging by what she did in Hengelo.
A 74-second lap there. Yes, I think Eilish will be feeling comfortable. She's so experienced now. She knows how to judge her efforts to perfection in long distance races, whether it's a half marathon. I saw her set a British record in the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon back in February. Whether it's a long distance like that, 13 miles, 21 kilometres, or indeed 5 or 10k on the track. So she won't get that part wrong. What she cannot control is how the others behind her are feeling. And Cheptai looks very, very comfortable, I have to say. Back there, Chesang, the defending champion, I meant to say, in fourth place for Uganda. She looks very comfortable. There is 5,000, a 3:05, Rob, some metronomic running from McColgan, 3:05, then 3:04, 3:04, and another 3:05 to take them to 5,000 metres. And this is where people start beginning to focus a little bit more and put their racing brains together.
McColgan leading into the second half of the race.
Well, let's go to the women's shot put. The first round throw here for Madison Lee Wishy of New Zealand. Oh, and that's useful. That's beyond 18 metres, dark glasses and all from the Kiwi. She looks pretty happy with it, doesn't she? 23-year-old is a 1950 thrower this year. That is a lifetime best she has thrown. 18:08 in qualifying. She was just one of 3 who went over the qualifying mark of 18 metres in qualifying. 18:84, that's a fabulous opener from Madison Lee Wishy. Now, the defending champion, Danielle Thomas-Dodd of Jamaica, beat Valerie Adams in 2018 for the gold. Set a Jamaican record back then with 1936 to win that gold. And that from Thomas-Dodd, close to 18 metres, very, very fast, isn't she? Boy, bang, straight down on that 18-metre line across the sector. But Wishy's opener will not be caught. 18:84, remember, for her. And the defending champion from Jamaica behind another Kiwi, not Valerie Adams this time, but 17:98 for Thomas-Dodd. The battle is underway.
Back with the 10,000 metres, 8 is quickly becoming 6 as Sarah Inglis and Sam Harrison have been dropped by this group. They're doing their level best to regroup, but at the moment now it's Dominique Scott in 6th place for South Africa. There you can see Harrison and Inglis just in the distance. but still, Cheptai, the 2017 World Cross Country champion, looming in the shadow of Eilish McColgan, and behind her, Sheila Kiprotich, African champion over the 5,000 metres, 7th fastest half marathon runner in history with a scorching 64-minute performance in Ras Al Khaimah. And just as I say that, the half marathon specialist now comes to the front, and this is a change in the tactics here. Kiprotich from Cheptai, and now McColgan is the one having to hang on, with Chesang, the defending champion, in 4th, Jess Judd 5th, and now Dominique Scott beginning to fall off the back of the pace.
Well, Eilish will have known this was coming. She hasn't changed her tempo. Another 3:04 there, that 6 kilometre, Rob. 18:42. She's well advised by her mother, who of course was a New York Marathon champion, a London Marathon champion, a great champion at Commonwealth and world level over 10,000 metres. I well remember Liz McColgan winning the world title in 1991 in the sweltering heat of Tokyo. So loads of experience behind her. Her partner Mike Rimmer was a world-class 800-metre runner. He has been a great partner for her over this last couple of years in particular, where she's been able to avoid those injuries and just put together race after race, so enormous consistency. So I think Eilish will have anticipated this. She's not panicked, she's just tucked in behind them, and to be fair, I don't think they've injected a great deal of pace, although those gaps are developing. And now actually, in a way, Eilish can relax and just tuck in behind these two, and for once she's getting a little bit of help. She's been the pacemaker unofficially for most of the race.
And if you look behind, there's ever such a slight gap opening up between Eilish McColgan in 3rd. It's Cheptai leading now, with Kiprotich in 2nd place on the curve, and the defending champion Chesang looks like she's working quite hard here, and all of a sudden 5 or 6 metres has opened up between McColgan and the woman who stormed to the title on the Gold Coast. She's a former world mountain running champion as well, but she's now down in 4th, with Jess Judd flying high off that personal best in sweltering conditions in Eugene in 5th. And that gap, Tim, is beginning to grow. So are we seeing 2 Kenyans and a Scot in what is quickly becoming a 3-way battle for the title? The defending champion's in a little bit of trouble here.
Well, she is, and in a way this is great for Eilish McColgan, because she's worked so hard to tire the field out through the first 6 kilometres, and she's getting her just desserts. In other words, she's separated the 3 of them away from the pack, and it pretty much lays down the story of the rest of the race. We have 3 athletes battling out 3 medals. She's guaranteeing herself a medal, perhaps, with the hard work done so far. I don't think Eilish will fold over these last 3 kilometres or so. It's a case of whether or not she can live with these 2 Kenyans now, and then maybe use that renowned finishing speed of hers.
Well, if you look at the personal bests, that lap was 72 seconds, and that is why the defending champion and Jess Judd in 4th and 5th have been blown out the back. On PBs, when you look back to that wonderful time that McColgan set in Hengelo, 30:19, her lifetime bests quicker than both the Kenyans. Now, this is different. It's a race scenario, but she hasn't allowed any gap at all to grow. There is Stella Chesang just on the right of picture there, so that gap looks like it's fast becoming unbridgeable. There's going to be a new champion, but what a story it would be if Eilish McColgan could put the world cross-country champion from 17 and the 7th fastest half marathon runner in history under major pressure here. In PB terms, she can live with the 2 Kenyans. It's a question of who's got the acceleration and when will the final big push for the title come, as they head round now with 7 laps to go. This is developing into a cracking climax, Tim.
Well, Rob, they're going through 7 laps to run, and I can tell you we've got 3 completely new medalists as well, because I was checking earlier, and Stella Chesang is the only finalist from 4 years ago in 2018 to be in this final. No other finalist from 2018 in this race apart from Chesang. But we can now go back to the high jump. Hamish Kerr, 2:22. Nobody clear at this height as yet. Here goes Kerr. Oh, there is now. And And that was lovely and relaxed, wasn't it? A lot of power. He doesn't generate a lot of speed. Very different to Stark in his approach, who really roars in on that curve to generate the centrifugal force. But that from Kerr, a lovely clearance. Bronze medalist at the World Indoors, a finalist last year in Tokyo, finished in 10th at the Olympic Games. And that suggests enormous strength to convert that moderate speed into big lift. Shankar at 2:22 now. Clear card so far for the Indian. He's having a great time. 2:22, first time for him as well. Yeah, the Indians in the crowd, his teammates loving that. So he and Kerr share the lead.
What a final 6 laps we have in prospect here. Of course, Eilish McColgan proudly flying the flag for Scotland, as her mother did in this exact final in the Meadowbank Stadium in Edinburgh in 1986, and taking the title 4 years later in Auckland. But they will roar as if she is one of their own. So many times these crowd members have cheered McColgan on in a British vest, and she's living with the two Kenyans. It's Irene Cheptai leading with the shorter hair. She's the former world cross-country champion. Kiprotich in second, a former world youth champion over 1,500 metres and a brilliant half marathon runner with that scorching 64-minute performance in Ras Al Khaimah. But McColgan's up for this. She's got the quickest PB of the 3 women, who look, barring a fall, as though they are going to be the gold, silver and bronze medalists. But in which order?
Doesn't she look relaxed? Doesn't she look supremely calm and in control, Eilish McColgan? Looks can be deceptive, I know, but they come through below us. 8k in 24:51. If you want that in miles, that's 5 miles in 24 minutes. 24:51. The 7th kilometre, by the way, Rob, was a 3:03. That one has slowed a little bit. That was a 3:06. That's the slowest kilometre of the race, apart from the first kilometre so far.
And I wonder, Tim, if that is why McColgan has decided to go to the front. Is this her bid to try and grind the sting out of any finish that may be left in the legs of Cheptai and Kiprotich? Jess Judd, by the way, has moved ahead of the defending champion Stella Chesang. She's just in the background. She's running quite well, Jess Judd, coming round now. She's around about 50 or 60 metres behind the trio battling for the medals. And as we get closer and closer to the last couple of laps, the noise in this stadium will increase. I think this would rank as the biggest moment of McColgan's career. Got a great European silver over the 5,000 metres, but she seems to have found her home over the 10. And I know we mentioned the Hengelo performance a couple of times. It really was utterly masterful. In great fashion, she stormed away from Letesenbet Gide, a double world cross-country champion, the Ethiopian, who went on to win the world title in Eugene. Those conditions were punishing and perhaps didn't suit McColgan, but it will tonight. The crowd are really responding. The 2 guys on P8, Jeff Whiteman and Chris Temple, doing a good job of informing the crowd what a big moment this would be for McColgan, for her entire family. But Tim, Cheptai and Kiprotich are still right there with her.
3.5 laps to go, and pace judgment now. How she spreads her effort out over these next just over 3 laps is absolutely critical. She does have loads of experience, Eilish McColgan. We mustn't forget, Rob, that she was European Championship silver medalist in Berlin back in 2018 over 5,000 metres. She does have fabulous 5,000 speed. Her 3,000 best, 8:31, gives her enormous confidence, I guess. 14:28 she's run for 5,000. That was Oslo last year. She holds the national records for the UK at 5,000 and half marathon. And as they come through with 3 laps to run, Eilish here will want to just test them a little bit, but constantly be reminding herself to save something for that last lap, those last 300 metres.
The officials doing a good job. They were just waving a placard in front of Rachel Chebet, telling her she had 4 laps to go. Of course it is 3. They're moving past so many athletes, and Chebet is saying to Kiprotich, go on, go past me, it's fine. Kiprotich has got a problem here. She's limping. talking about the athlete just on the left of picture, I wonder whether she might have to drop out, which would give Jess Judd perhaps an opportunity to get in the mix for a bronze. So all of a sudden, we only have two left together. It's Cheptai with McColgan just behind her. Kiprotich is carrying on, but she has been dropped and she's limping heavily.
Well, how ironic that Cheptai has hit the front and tries to kick away here as her teammate Kiprotich is in trouble, and McColgan now approaching 2 laps to go, right on the heels of Cheptai. What has each of them got in the tank? Cheptai, for my money, Robbers, looks as though she's under more stress for the last few laps.
And she just got a little push in the back there from McColgan, who perhaps feels as though Cheptai isn't moving quickly enough to be hogging the inside line. Well, she could come wide on the outside. What a story here, unfolding before our very eyes. It's turning into a brilliant battle over these last few laps. It would be an incredible moment for McColgan if she could somehow replicate what her mum did in 86 and 90, and she's coming up onto Cheptai's shoulder. The World Cross Country Champion from 2017 is under real pressure here by the Scot, who is going to receive an almighty roar from the crowd when she comes round to hear the bell.
Very tough moment for Eilish McColgan this. How do you decide when to go? Because I think she looks far the better of the two. Does she go hard here from 500 metres out? They're coming towards the bell. McColgan here looks to have the speed, but Cheptai stubbornly holding that inside line and raising her game. It's a wonderful battle between the heavyweights as they reach 1 lap to go.
Listen to the noise from the crowd here as they take the bell in the final of the women's 10,000 metres. Irene Cheptai, the World Cross Country Champion from 5 years ago, desperately trying to pull away from Eilish McColgan, who's putting in one of the bravest performances of her career, desperate to follow in the mighty footsteps of her mum, who's won this title not once but twice, and she still hasn't been broken. What a battle here. Cheptai is giving this absolutely everything, and somehow McColgan's staying with her. Less than 200 to go, and we still don't know who's taking the gold. McColgan's had a silver in the Europeans, but this would be incredible. Cheptai accelerates again. Pain etched on both their faces. Side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Who wants it the most? Listen to the crowd. This is absolutely incredible. History is being rewritten here in Birmingham in spectacular fashion. Eilish McColgan is the Commonwealth champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel once more, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're new. If you're passionate about breathtaking performances, you're definitely at the right place. So what we are going to find out what really happens when thousands of meters of control running suddenly turn into an all-out sprint for glory. That is exactly what happened in this incredible women's 10,000 meters final at the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. The names of the front were Eilish McColgan of Scotland and Irene Cheptai of Kenya, and Sheila Kipkirui of Kenya, with Ugandan Stella Chisang also fighting strongly among the leading group. And although the race lasted more than 30 minutes, everything came down to the final stages, because after nearly 10,000 meters of running, the athletes still had to find another gear. From the opening stages, this was clearly going to be a tactical battle. Nobody wanted to waste energy too early. The athletes settled into rhythm, knowing that the real battle will come much later. Every lap required concentration, every change of pace mattered, and with the distance continuing to disappear, the leading runners remained closely connected. McColgan stayed composed at the front, while Kenyans Irene and Sheila remained more major threats. Stella Chesang was also running strongly, refusing to let the leaders escape. The crowd inside Birmingham Alexander Stadium could sense that something special was developing. As the kilometers disappeared, fatigue began to become a major factor. At this distance, speed is only the part one part of the equation. The athletes need to endurance, tactical awareness, and the ability to respond when another runner accelerates. McColgan continued to look remarkably controlled. Behind her, Cheptai and Chepkirui kept the pressure on. The Kenyan runners were not simply running for position, they were creating a serious challenge to Scotland's McColgan. And every time the pace changed, the gap between the athletes threatened to open. But the leading group refused to break apart. This was turning into a battle of patience. Who could stay calm, who could conserve enough energy for the later, and most importantly, who would have something left for the final lap. Now the race entered into its most dramatic phase. The athletes were approaching the point where tactics would become almost as important as fitness. The finish line was getting closer, but nobody could afford to relax. McColgan remained in contention. Cheptai was right there. Chepkirui was still fighting for a medal, and Chesang continued to chase the leaders. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The pace began to rise. The runners started moving with greater urgency. This was no longer about simply competing 10,000 meters. This was about winning the Commonwealth title, and suddenly McColgan had to find another level. Here comes the final lap, and after thousands of meters, and the athletes are now effectively racing to a sprint. McColgan begins to push. Cheptai responds. The crowd rises as the two athletes battle toward the finish line. Every stride is becoming more important. McColgan knows that if she can create even the smallest advantage, Cheptai may not have enough track left to respond. But Cheptai refuses to surrender. The Kenyan athlete continues fighting all the way to the line. The final straight is absolutely dramatic. McColgan digs deep. Cheptai is still chasing, and with the finish line rapidly approaching, McColgan manages to hold on. Ailish McColgan wins the gold medal, and she does it in a Commonwealth Games record of 30 minutes 48.60 seconds. Cheptai takes silver in 30.4952, just under a second behind, and Kenyan Sheila Chepkirui completes later. The final standing tell the stories. Gold went to McColgan, Cheptai got silver, and bronze to Chepkirui. And just outside the medals was Ugandan Stella Chesang. Jessica Jude of England finished 5th, followed by Samantha. Then Dominic Scott also finished inside the top 7. What makes this performance even more remarkable is that McColgan was not simply winning a tactical race. She was setting a new game record. Her winning time of 30 minutes 48 seconds 60 become the Commonwealth Games record for the event, and that is what makes this 10,000 meter final so unforgettable. For most of the race it was about patience, but in the final stages patience had to disappear. The athletes had to unleash everything they had left. Ailish McColgan produced the decisive finish and secured gold for Scotland. Irene Cheptai fought brilliantly for silver, and Sheila Chepkirui completed an impressive Kenyan double win bronze, and Stella Chesang showed tremendous strength by finishing 4th. This was not just a long distance race, it was an endurance battle that transformed into a sprint showdown at the finish. And after 10,000 meters, the difference between victory and second place was less than 1 second away. That is the kind of finish that makes athletics unforgettable. Indeed, it was a game of endurance, patience, and tactics there, and the display of the ability to contain and withstand pressure, because running 10,000 meters is not a joke. It is not easy, and it is easier to pass out rather than finish the finish line. And as we can see, McColgan indeed had the ability to withstand all the pressure and managed to come out with the gold medal. And let us give all the credit to the winner, because it was not easy. running that long, it wasn't easy, and several people were on the track and they couldn't make it at the first place. So let us appreciate her efforts. And thank you so much for tuning in. See you till the next video, and all credit goes to the original broadcaster of this video. Ensure to subscribe, comment, like and share on the same note, and let me know what you think about this race.